Allina Health is proud to support your Loons as the official healthcare provider of Minnesota United. Every day, we provide expert care to keep the team in top form on match day. All across Minnesota and western Wisconsin, you can find the same dedicated providers just a short drive away. It's expert care when and how you need it. Schedule your visit at allinahealth.org today. Allina Health, all together better. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Sound of the Loons podcast brought to you by Allina Health. I am your host, Zarek, and I am here with arguably my favorite member and my favorite former alum of the University of Akron, Cam Knowles. Welcome back to the podcast.
Nice. Little zip shout out.
Yeah, little zip shout out. It's been a while since we've had you on. You were the second ever guest we had on the show, so welcome back.
Okay, long time between drinks.
Yeah, a lot of time has definitely passed. We're going to dive right into it. Was I that bad at refereeing today? I'll bring it up today.
Judging from the reaction of the players, I think you were shocking.
So to provide a little bit of context, we normally will run the session and end with some small-sided on Tuesday or Thursday, or in this case, or Tuesday or Wednesday, in this case, or Thursday. And usually Cam is in charge of the time of the games, the rules and the stipulations, and I will referee one side and Cam will referee the other side. To be completely honest, I lost a bit of composure on my side. It started off with a call against Nectar, with the ball being out when it wasn't out, and the team immediately scored after that. So Kelvin was not happy, and he roars kind of like a lion. And then subsequently, DJ ran into Kane, which then caused a delay. And then during that delay, there was 4 goals scored in 15 seconds, 2 of which shouldn't have happened.
I think you had the perfect storm.
Yeah,
the absolute perfect storm.
It was tough. So the way I solved it, and now the players will understand this, is I just said everyone tied, and we go to penalty kicks. That's good for Sean McCulley.
Yeah.
Odds even.
Wrong and strong.
Yeah, wrong and strong. So
but maybe too wrong in this situation.
So is that your advice for any young up and coming coach when you're judging, when you're refereeing a small-sided game?
My advice is try and pay attention.
I was paying attention.
Bring your whistle.
I was there.
Didn't have a whistle.
There we go. Yes.
Refereeing 101.
I didn't have a whistle. I thought my voice would be loud enough, but it wasn't. But we're going to start with the Twosies, a team in which you know very well. A lot of the players, the staff very well. They've had an incredible amount of success this year going forward. Coach Jeremy Hall and Adi and Cristiano and the rest of the staff have done a fantastic job. From someone who was there previously, a few years ago to now you're with us, where have you seen them grow? How have you seen Jeremy and that staff grow into where they're now in a conference final, which is awesome?
Yeah, I think you've got to look past some of the results as well and look at what are they doing in terms of supporting the first team. And you've got, Darius Randall has come through that team. He's been the youngest goal scorer for the club and youngest player to start a game. You've got a number of second team players that have contributed to first team games, especially in the Open Cup and then also in the training environment. We get that. And so to see the success of both the development pathway and also the on-field success of results and where they are now in the playoffs is just phenomenal. It's very difficult to do one of those things. It's even harder to be able to do both. And I think, credit to the entire staff and the group they've put together. They've got such a great team spirit about them, great energy. They're fun to watch, and they have been all season. Yeah,
and how do you manage that? Basically you can't double down on development because then maybe the results go on, to the wayside. And then if you double down on the results, maybe you're not developing some of the young academy players. How do you develop that? And have you, I would say, had some conversations with Jeremy as he's moved forward? Because again, the team's had a lot of success. But how do you balance that?
Yeah, obviously it's difficult. When you inherently players, coaches, you're competitors by nature. That's why you're in this business in the first place, and you want to win. You go into every game wanting to win. But there is also that development aspect, and people sit at different ends of the spectrum on where they believe. That is. I believe that. There has to be an element of result and winning and things like that, because those players, their next step within this club is the first team, and so what does the last, you look at our game the other night, what does that last minute, last 2 minutes, last 5 minutes look like when you're down a goal, up a goal, even? Like how does the game state change how you play and how you manage a game tactically and as an individual, as collectively? And I think that's part of the development process. And I think they've done a really nice job this year of just being able to weave that in. And it's, it's not the only story, but it's certainly part of the story.
Yeah, and they've used a variety of different players, as you said, some guys who've signed first team contracts, some academy players. And even last game, when you look at the team that took shape, obviously Logan Dorsey was up top, scored a goal. Troy Putt put in a hell of a shift, and Darius came on off the bench. They're doing it in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, 100%. And integrated really young academy players, 15-year-old, that's come in and played a number of games for them. And so they've a really good balance to the team.
Yeah, and I think that they showed that, and we're following them. We're wishing them all the success going forward. But let's quickly, let's look at the season as a whole. Obviously, there's a lot of games, a lot of stuff happened. But just give us some of your general thoughts, some of the ebbs and flows that we've gone through since the last time we spoke, and now leading into the playoffs. And then we'll touch on our first game in Seattle, then moving forward into the weekend where we play them again.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, you start the season and you think that the playoffs seem so far away. You get to this point and you look back at some of those games and it feels like a lifetime ago that you played some of those games at the beginning of the year. And I think overall the season has been probably one of the most consistent, that I've been a part of. We've never really gone through an extended stretch of, bad performances. We've always been able to bounce back. I think how high the bar has been set showed the disappointment in those moments where, we get bounced out of the cup and things like that. And it's been a really consistent week to week in preparation, in performance, and contributions from, a large group in the squad that's really got us to this point where now, we're where you want to be, competing for a trophy. Yeah,
definitely. And is that something you've had conversations with Coach Ramsey about? Because as I would say the senior MLS assistant coach veteran on the team, right? Obviously with Dennis, coming in with Coach Ramsey and yourself, you were my coach in Portland for a while. You started back in the day with John Spencer, right? I believe that was where you got your first, is that something where, you advised and maybe gave some sort of insights as to how wacky MLS can be at moments, and certain if you can keep that, consistency, it might obviously just help you, the whole way through?
I think it's a function of multiple things. I think it's the personality of the team and the staff as well. I think, between Eric and Dennis, you don't see, these big swings and highs and lows. There's just a real consistency in the way that the staff work. There's a real consistency in reviewing a performance, whether it's a good result or a bad result. There's a real consistency in preparation for the next game. And I think with the team, we have a lot of maturity as well. We have some older players in that locker room that have done an incredible job of, staying on track, keeping the group on track. Even guys that haven't seen the field maybe as much as they want. Someone like Julian Gressel that's come in. He's a serial winner in this league. He's won a lot of trophies, and his influence over that group, and some of the stuff when he's not in the 11 or on the team, and just some of the subtle messages he keeps putting in on the back of maybe a bad result or a good result really goes a long way. Yeah,
and for me, obviously, more recently, I was so gutted for him to not have the moment. I think he deserved a little bit because of the stuff you see behind the scenes, right? I don't think the fans fully understand, the work that a lot of the players put in behind the scenes, but especially in his case, some of the leadership, right? Not necessarily being a guy who's, playing 90 minutes game in and game out, but showing up. And I think that those are the types of things that ultimately will carry a team, because you have the guys on the pitch who help, but then you also need to have the guys in the back end who either, are ready for their moment or striving to potentially be called upon. But, we touched on that. So let's dive in. What were your initial thoughts on the game against Seattle? It was a tough 0-0 battle, but ultimately got out of there with a PK win, and now we're on to the second match. But yeah, take us in your initial thoughts on the first playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a really good game. I think, you feel the extra tension of a playoff game. You feel that each little moment matters just a little bit more. But I think for us too, and getting back to what we are, what we've been, what's been our success throughout the course of the season, of how we defend, how compact we are, being really comfortable without the ball, creating chances in transition, being dangerous on set pieces. I mean, you got to see all of those things. And then, we know and touch wood, but we've been really fortunate, good, clinical in these shootouts so far with this in this format, and Dane's a big part of that. But yeah, I think when you look at it, job done. You want to take care of that first game, and now you get 2 bites at it.
The postseason is here and your Loons are ready to fly. Our official playoff hub has everything from matchup details to ticketing links and even upcoming community events, so you can stay in the loop on all things playoffs. Gear up and get ready to cheer the black and blue all the way to victory. Visit the MNUFC app or MNUFC.com for more info. Yeah, definitely. And I for those who don't know, Cam was a part of a team in the Portland Timbers in 2015 that went on to win MLS Cup, went through a PK shootout in the first round, if I'm not mistaken, against Kansas City, the double post. And then I believe played Dallas and then went on to MLS Cup final after that. If I'm not, was that the path?
Oh, it's a long time ago, mate. From the double post, everything's a bit of a blur.
Fair enough. But, as you look back on your time and to be, I think, the only person in the club who has a ring, an MLS Cup ring. What can you take and draw from that experience as a coach that you can help, talk to the guys, talk to the staff, and kind of impart some of that wisdom, because that is such a unique thing. And competing for trophies is something that this club is striving for, but to have actually gone there and gotten to the mountaintop, what do you take from your experiences from there?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is for, there's some teams that are competing year in, year out, and they're fortunate to be with those groups where it is, multiple finals, multiple trophies, things like that. But I think for the majority, those opportunities don't come often, and when you have the opportunity with a group that's good enough, that's cohesive enough, that, has a chance at something, you've got to really throw everything at it, because you don't know when that next chance is going to come, and you look back at that and, 10 years has gone by since that. And, it was an incredible moment to be part of a team on that run. And, the ball hits the post twice and comes out, and, your goalkeeper scores the next penalty. And all of a sudden you feel like after a bit of luck, things are going your way. And I think a playoff run needs that. It needs a good group. It needs a talented group. It needs depth, needs, a good plan going into games. And you need a little bit of luck along the way as well.
Mm-hmm. And going into the next game against Seattle, we've both played there multiple times. We've won. We've had some tough results. What is your message to the team and how we should approach, again, what's going to be a very, very difficult game away from home and one of the more tougher environments to play in?
I think, you look at the 3 games we've already played against them, and we've been really good. We were good there earlier this season. That should all lead into our favor and a good performance there. Now, they are one of the best teams, in MLS. They've shown as a club that they are one of the best teams in terms of the trophies they've been able to compete for and the trophies they've been able to win. And in front of their home fans, they're not going down lightly. And it's, Julian says as often before games, you've got to go and take it.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to roll over. No one's going to give it to you. No one's going to get out of your way. You have to go and take it. And I think that for us is really just continuing to build on the performances we've already had against them, build on this performance at home, and really go there and take it.
Yeah, I think for us, it's controlling the controllables. It's so cliche. We always say, you got to control the controllables. But I think in our case, we've shown that when we do that, we're a difficult team to play against. And I think that's what's exciting for me is that we control our style of play, and a lot of teams will have to either adapt or be so cognizant of that they're overly focused on what we have to do, and we're just so confident in what we do. Do you think that's a sign of a good team, or do you think that's necessarily the sign of a team that is, I would say, or do we need to be more focused on the opponent, or say, you know what, we're happy with who we are?
Look, I think the season as a whole suggests that we're onto a good thing here, and we just keep preparing for each game week in, week out, like we have all season. Everyone understands their roles, and there's a lot of clarity and a lot of detail that goes into that. And then we go out and hopefully we execute.
Yeah, that's the plan. Sorry, Will Trapp, by the way, bringing up 2015. I didn't mean to necessarily do that. Well, I did. But and then we're going to slowly wrap up. And something that fans may or may not know about you, maybe if they paid a lot of attention, is you are known for your pregame speeches. Devin Padelford will go on record saying you have him ready to do unthinkable things before a game, red cards, everything. Where does that come from? Because you're extremely well spoken. I don't know if it's media training. I don't know if it's back in the day storytelling or how you grew up, but you have this captivating ability to get the team in like the palm of your hand and talk to them and then deliver messages, even on a podcast, that are very clear in a very elegant way. So where's that come from?
Well, thanks. Look, I don't know. Some of those things, and it was even with the second teams, I would say some things, and people really like we said, and I might not even recall, and there's other times that you go into it quite prepared of, I want to get this across. I want the guys to be thinking about that. I think it's interesting because you've got a room full of people and everyone prepares for the game in a different way. Some guys are rah-rah, they like that hype. Some guys just want to be left alone. Some guys want to listen to music. Some guys want calm and peace. Some guys, it's a moment for them in prayer maybe, and everyone's got like a different way to prepare for the game. So I think it's important to know too, while you're speaking to all the group, it might not be heard by everyone, but maybe it influences in a positive way 2, 3, 4 guys, who knows? But yeah, I don't know. It's just.
What's your degree in again? Isn't it in your college degree? Don't you have a master's as well, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I did a master's in psychology.
So does that where it kind of comes? So the idea of coaching a group, but it's not, everyone's an individual, but it's still a group. Is that, so how does those two go hand in hand? Because that's a pretty intense degree.
Well, what I would say is a master's in psychology does not make me a master of psychology. So let's get that straight first. But I think some of the things that you come across in that, and it's things that there's a lot of books you can read. There's a lot of things you can do that can give you this information. It's not really rocket science, but just like language, and how you talk about things, positive versus negative, and how you frame situations. I think there's a lot in that. And you see it even in even the way that we do video and the way that we train. You talk about sort of cognitive overload and overloading guys with information. And every time we meet or we do video, it's short, it's snappy, it's quick, and so you're getting like constant little bites that layer on top of each other. And so, there's a lot that I took from doing that comes into then how I am as a coach and I would say even more so probably how I am as a parent.
So does that mean you analyze the person's personality before delivering a message? Is that a cognitive, like,
no,
obviously?
No. I mean, like you.
Or maybe I'm way overthinking.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's more. I don't even know really how to explain my process with that. It's just trying to tap into something that can sort of unify the group. And looking back, there was a lot. There was a lot at the beginning of last year, that we had to bring the group together around. And so it's just trying to find something that, does it help first and foremost? Does it help prepare them from the game? Does it bring the group together? Does it bring a sort of calmness and confidence? And we've got this. I don't know. I don't know.
It's interesting that you say that because obviously there's a lot of knowledge and intelligence behind this because you trained and you worked in it. But I think that baseline, or I would say the baseline of your personality and kind of how you grew up and how you speak to people and the banter and your casualness and that, but then coupled with the fact that you're educated and that mixture has allowed you to find this really cool balance. And I like I said, I remember the beginning of last season being in Orlando and going out to these games and I was so sure we were going to win, even though everyone else had written us off. They thought we were going to go 0 whatever. But the way in which those messages were delivered in those games, away at Austin and Orlando, Columbus, we're going into these games, this underdog team that has, so much uncertainty around it, but you provided this calm aspect. And I don't know if that was intentional behind it, but it gave myself and the group we're gonna do this, and then we go out and we're not surprised by it. Everyone else was surprised by it, but we weren't surprised by it, and that's something where again credit to you to have that and impart that on the players because then you get that result, and there's no shortage to, I would say there's a reason success happens. So kudos to you for that. Maybe one of these days the social media team can grab one of these pregame talks because then we'll get everyone go. We'll put on the big board. I think everyone would enjoy it. But regardless, Cam, thank you so much for coming on to actually, no, I'm not going to stop this. What do you expect? What do you think our team needs going into I would say a difficult environment? Lastly, I got to touch on the Seattle game one more time. What do you think our team needs to do well to get a result and to come back here and to get a little bit of a break for the next round?
We just do what we keep doing. I mean, you've got to be resilient. You know that that's a place they're going to have a big crowd. It's going to be loud. They're going to have moments of success. There's going to be times where it feels like you're really up against it, and it's just being resilient. You know, the onus is on them to go and win. They have to win. Yeah. You know, they have to win, and that means that there's going to be chances for us. You know, they have to push the boundary a little bit. They have to take risk, and so we have to capitalize on those moments. You know, it could be one goal that changes everything.
There you go. And I think that's a perfect way to wrap this up because it's in our control. We control the controllables. We get a nice pregame speech. Let our boys do what they do. We got a decent guy in between the sticks at the back, and I think we'll give ourselves a decent chance. But thank you so much, Cam, again, for coming on and taking the time to speak with us on the Sound of Loons podcast brought to you by Line of Health. I don't know if you'll come back on the rest of this season. We have, so many games left, but regardless, to be the second guest and to come on now and to give us some of your insights and your thoughts, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.